Yeah, let's talk about insulation. I'm going to talk about the insulation that you can buy off the shelf in generic hardware stores and these big DIY stores and builders merchants. There's only a few. I'm not going to confuse you with all the different numbers and everything that go with it, UV values and all that sort of stuff. But what I am going to do is give you some facts and some opinions. These facts and these opinions are based on years of fitting and installing the stuff, years of living in vehicles with the stuff, and years working in a builder's merchants selling the stuff. So I do know a little bit about insulation, but like I say, I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. Firstly though, and I'm going to digress momentarily, I want to say happy Mother's Day to all the lovely mothers out there. You are all awesome. Every single one of you are absolutely awesome. You all do a superb job. It's not easy. I can't really judge because I'm a man, so I haven't really got a clue. But looking at it from an outsider's point of view and seeing what you guys have to put up with, it's tough. And a special happy Mother's Day to my own mum. She's awesome. Straight up, she's had a rough ride. You know, from when I was quite a young boy, whatever. And she continues to smile and she continues to support me. And she's been brilliant to me the last few years. So I just want to say thank you, Ma. Keep on being you. I think you're awesome. Love you loads. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Yeah. So moving on. Insulation, like I say, it's based on my experiences with the stuff, which is quite a lot of experience, really, to be honest. But let's start with wool insulation. Now, a lot of people get confused with wool insulation. A lot of people will walk into a builder's merchants, for example, and ask for rock wool. And what they actually mean is the glass wool, the cheap stuff. The rock wool is a completely different product. We will get onto that in a minute. We will start with the cheap stuff, the glass fibre stuff, the stuff which is itchy, which is an irritant, which is just vile. Cheap, but vile. It does have half decent insulation qualities. It is terrible to handle, and it does, despite what the books or everything else says, does hold moisture. The last thing you want is something that's going to hold moisture in your truck, because you are going to get condensation. You are undoubtedly going to get leaks because you put all sorts of stuff on your roof, just like I do. You do not want wool insulation in your truck, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a big no-no. It is going to get damp, it is going to hold that moisture, and it's never going to dry out. The standard fiberglass wool insulation does have a little bit of sound insulation. They do say that it doesn't burn, but it does melt. That's the last thing you want if you have problems, is something dripping on you like that's fucking boiling hot. So even if it doesn't burn and it does melt, surely that's going to be a problem. So yeah, you need to be aware that glass fibre wool insulation is going to hold moisture. Rock wool. Now, rock wool is a specialist product, has excellent sound insulation, has excellent fireproof qualities, and by that what I mean is it is the only fireproof, not fire resistant, fireproof insulation out there. And there's a reason for that. It is made from volcanic rock. It's kind of wound. It's weird how they do it. I did have a rep tell me how they do it all once, but it's sort of wound and round. It's sort of made a bit like candy floss, I suppose. So yeah, that's an awesome insulation in itself, but it does have the same problems as the glass wool. It will hold moisture. So again, it's not something I would go out of my way to use. The other thing about wool, and I see this time and time again, wool works by creating voids, all wool insulations, by creating voids in the product itself. That's what holds the warm air and stops the cold air coming in. What you do when you build a van, however, because undoubtedly, especially most panel vans, they're all sorts of weird shapes and gaps, and you'll get the wool, you'll put it up on the wall and you'll squeeze it and squash it into the corners. Bearing in mind, for any wool insulation to have good insulation qualities at all, it has to be at least that thick. 4 inches, I think, 100mm. Who puts 100mm in their walls of their van? So as soon as you put panels up, you are squashing that insulation, which makes it null and void. Absolute waste of money, pointless exercise. You can't squash that stuff and squeeze it into all the corners and expect it to be an efficient product, because it's just not. So you've squeezed it all up, then you've got moisture coming in, it gets all wet. You might as well just go and sit outside in the fucking rain in a pair of shorts and t-shirt. It's ridiculous. Just wool is a big no-no. Again, my opinion. I totally get it from the cost point of view, but just don't squeeze it, for crying out loud, because it is pointless. Yeah, you've got another product which they used to use in caravans a lot, commonly known as jablite, but non-tradespeople will know it as polystyrene. Cheap. That's all I've got to say on it, to be honest. Cheap. Has tiny sound insulation, has tiny UV values, is messy, is horrible, it won't hold water. If you're tight for cash, it's probably a better option than wool, but again, I wouldn't be using it. Like I said, I think they used to use it in old caravans. I don't think they do anymore. Yeah, so that's another one. That said, I haven't seen it in the builders most for a few years, so maybe it doesn't meet building regs anymore. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the next one is something that I use. You can see it. It's there. Ta-da! This one is called Extra Firm. You've got others that are called Kingspan. You've got others that are called Celotex. You've got others that are called Quinn. And there's loads and loads of different people that make it. They're all the same product. So when you go into a builder's merchants and you ask for Celotex and they take you out to the warehouse and they start putting Kingspan or Extra Firm in your truck, don't worry, it's the same thing. It's actually called PIR. It's a closed cell foam insulation. It can't hold moisture. That said, I have experienced quite a large stack of like 50mm stuff, and the stack's quite high, in the back of a builder's yard, and on the bottom 2 or 3 boards are soaking wet, but they have been there for a period of time, because obviously people just take the stuff off the top, and when a new load comes in they just chuck it on top, so the stuff at the bottom, so it might have been there for months exposed to all the elements. But yeah, it's a closed cell. It's not supposed to hold moisture, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't really. It is a great product. Has the best UV values. It has a vapor barrier built in, as you can see, the silver stuff. However, it's quite flammable, even though they say it isn't. So yeah, but it is the one I use. Then you've got that bubble wrap stuff, which basically isn't an insulation at all. People use it for the fallback to bubble wrap stuff. People use it as a vapor barrier, which doesn't quite make any sense to me, because surely you're in a tin box, which is metal. That metal, collects moisture as you get hot and warm inside the truck, depending on the temperatures outside and all that sort of stuff. So you go put a vapor barrier up that is made of tin, metal, the same as what you're putting it on. So aren't you just moving that vapor that was collecting on that metal a few mil inwards, and it's now going to collect on that bubble wrap? Don't know. I think it's a massive con. I'm not convinced by vapor barriers at all, in any way, shape or form. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I personally think vapor barriers and that bubble wrap stuff is a complete waste of time and money. Again, that's my personal opinion. Yeah, that about covers it, to be honest. It is quite complicated. The crux of it is there is no insulation that naturally lends itself ideally to living in a truck. You've got to make your own decision. I hope this video has helped. Again, this is just based on my opinion. It is based on the fact that I have used all these insulations. It's based on the fact that I've sold all these insulations, and it is based on the fact that I've lived in vehicles with all these insulations in. I haven't put the insulation in, but I have had vans with it in when I've bought them. Yeah, peace and love to you all, and I'll see you next time. I hope this helps just a tiny little bit. Yeah, take care.